Every single day, millions of people walk into completely sterile, modern supermarkets and purchase beautifully packaged loaves of perfectly soft white bread. We are absolutely conditioned to believe that our modern industrial food supply is the ultimate peak of human agricultural achievement. We assume that ancient people ate terrible, dirty food and suffered from horrible nutritional deficiencies, while we enjoy the absolute safest and most nutritious diet in human history. But if you look closely at the rapidly rising rates of modern digestive diseases and global metabolic collapse, this comforting illusion completely shatters into a million pieces. The shocking historical reality is that the average ancient Roman citizen eating a massive, heavy loaf of dark bread on the dirty streets of the empire was actually consuming a highly advanced biological superfood.
When archaeologists carefully excavated the tragic volcanic ruins of ancient Pompeii, they discovered perfectly preserved carbonized loaves of round segmented bread, known as panis quadratus. This was the absolute fundamental daily survival food that successfully powered the massive legions and fed millions of common citizens across the entire Mediterranean world. Today, incredibly wealthy billionaires and elite health gurus pay absolute massive fortunes to exclusive artisan bakeries just to consume the exact same magical nutritional profile that the ancient Roman peasants ate absolutely every single day. The massive modern food industry is completely terrified of this ancient historical recipe because it exposes their cheap modern bread as a highly toxic biological weapon that is slowly destroying our digestive health. To truly understand why this ancient Roman staple was practically a medical miracle, you must carefully examine exactly how they processed their fundamental ingredients. The massive industrial factories of today violently strip the natural wheat kernel, completely destroying the healthy outer bran and the incredibly nutritious inner germ. But the ancient Roman millers ground their heavy ancient grains entirely whole, preserving every single microscopic gram of vital dietary fiber, essential minerals, and powerful natural antioxidants. Therefore, the ancient flour was incredibly dark, heavy, and absolutely packed with raw biological energy. But the absolute greatest secret of their legendary bread was exactly how they made the heavy dough magically rise. The Romans did not possess small, convenient packets of highly concentrated, fast-acting chemical yeast. Instead, they relied entirely on wild, natural bacterial cultures, carefully cultivating a deeply sour, living biological sponge over many long hours. This slow, natural fermentation process was absolutely critical for human digestion, because the active bacterial acids literally dissolved the dangerous natural anti-nutrients hidden deep inside the raw grain. Therefore, the ancient wild sourdough essentially pre-digested the heavy, complex proteins long before the bread ever entered the human stomach. This magnificent, slow biological transformation completely unlocked the essential hidden minerals like iron and zinc, allowing the ancient human body to absorb massive amounts of critical nutrition with absolutely zero internal inflammation or painful digestive distress. When the modern industrial revolution finally arrived, the massive food corporations completely decided that the ancient biological methods were simply too incredibly slow and highly unprofitable. They desperately needed to manufacture millions of cheap, identical loaves as incredibly fast as physically possible to maximize their global financial returns. Therefore, they ruthlessly abandoned the magnificent, slow, wild fermentation process, completely replacing the complex natural bacteria with highly aggressive commercial yeast that forced the dough to rise in a fraction of the time. Because this new industrial process was so incredibly fast, the dangerous anti-nutrients in the raw grain were never properly neutralized, and the heavy, complex proteins remained completely intact. Therefore, modern humans are suddenly forcing their fragile stomachs to violently process raw, unbroken chemical compounds that the ancient bacterial cultures used to gently digest for us. Furthermore, the modern factories began using heavily refined pure white flour, which is essentially just empty, fast-acting pure sugar, completely disguised as a solid baked good.
When you consume a slice of modern industrial white bread, your fragile biological system experiences an incredibly violent and absolutely massive spike in blood sugar, instantly followed by a devastating hormonal crash. We blindly traded a slow-digesting, ancient nutritional powerhouse for a cheap, fast-acting metabolic nightmare that actively triggers massive cellular inflammation and severe insulin resistance with every single bite. But the devastating modern destruction of our daily bread did not simply stop at removing the vital natural fiber and destroying the slow biological fermentation process. To ensure that these cheap white loaves remained perfectly soft and completely immune to natural mold for several long weeks on a warm supermarket shelf, the corporations began adding highly synthetic chemical cocktails. If you carefully read the complicated ingredients on a modern plastic bread wrapper, you will discover incredibly strange synthetic emulsifiers and highly advanced industrial dough conditioners. These massive, unpronounceable chemical compounds are completely alien to the natural human digestive system. Modern clinical researchers are now discovering absolutely terrifying medical evidence regarding exactly what these synthetic industrial emulsifiers do when they finally reach your sensitive internal organs. These aggressive chemical additives literally act like a microscopic toxic soap, violently scrubbing away the deeply protective mucosal lining of your incredibly fragile intestinal walls. Therefore, the highly sensitive and deeply essential friendly bacteria living inside your lower gut are completely devastated by this daily chemical assault. This massive, invisible internal destruction actively creates chronic, devastating gut inflammation and severely damages your fundamental immune system. The cheap modern bread is no longer an agricultural food product, but rather a highly engineered, synthetic sponge, completely saturated with industrial chemicals designed entirely for corporate shelf life instead of actual human health. The ultimate devastating irony of this entire global nutritional tragedy is that the primitive ancient Roman bakers accidentally perfected the absolute ultimate science of human digestion without ever even knowing what a microscopic bacteria was. They simply respected the deeply powerful natural laws of biological fermentation and heavily relied on whole, uncorrupted ingredients from the raw earth. Today, our highly advanced, modern medical establishment constantly panics over the massive global explosion of severe intestinal diseases and dangerous chronic metabolic syndromes. We endlessly search for incredibly expensive pharmaceutical drugs and highly complex medical treatments to artificially fix our rapidly collapsing digestive systems. But the absolute simplest and most devastatingly effective cure is completely ignoring the brightly colored toxic aisles of the modern industrial supermarket. The massive global food monopolies are absolutely terrified that the modern consumer will suddenly wake up and realize that their highly processed chemical loaves are actually causing the exact identical diseases that we are constantly trying to cure. By simply returning to the pure, uncorrupted ancient method of grinding whole, raw, ancient grains and patiently allowing wild, natural bacteria to slowly transform the heavy dough, we can instantly reclaim our lost biological health. The 2,000-year-old Roman secret proves that true nutritional power does not come from a massive chemical factory, but rather from the patient, brilliant simplicity of the ancient human past.